Hello, hello, and welcome again to a Beatles program which is called Things We Said Today. This is a weekly show in which we talk about anything there is to do with the Beatles. It could be any part of their past, the present, and very often, sometimes we talk about what we think will be happening in the future. I'm Ken Michaels, one of the four regular co-hosts of the show, also known for my Beatles syndicated show called Every Little Thing, being joined by my three regulars. First of all, we have the executive editor of Beatle Fan Magazine. That's executive, yay! Executive editor, and that's a mighty title there, you know, not something to sneeze at.
Well, when I was living in New York, that and was it 275 would get me on the subway.
Okay, but we here at the show respect that title very high. So do Beatle fans around the world. So
okay,
and that's Al Sussman there. Hi, Al.
Hi, Ken. Hello there, everybody.
Also, we have our resident musicologist, and he's a contributing writer to Beatle Fan. Also spent many years writing for the New York Times, still does once in a while. And that is Al Kozin. Hi, Al.
Hi, Ken. How you doing? Hello, everyone.
And we have contributing writer to Billboard.com and Axis.com. And for many years wrote for Beatles Examiner. And that is Steve Marinucci. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Ken. Hello, everyone.
And once again here on the program, we have a special guest, and she is the author of several books, one of which we've talked about here on the show called Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours to the Beatles' Less Known Tracks, and more recently, the book Michael Jackson FAQ, that being Kit O Toole. Hi, Kit.
Hey, Ken. Hi, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. And we're going to be talking about a number of things today. Most importantly, we're going to be looking back at this previous year, and Kit, I know, put together an article for Beatle Fan in which she discussed her Christmas wish list. So we're all going to be talking about this past year, highlights of the year, and what we might recommend to people who listen to our show to buy, possibly, from this past year. But before we do that, we have a major story here to talk about, and that is last week the news broke that Flowers in the Dirt, Paul McCartney's 1989 album, would be coming out, finally, the remaster for that, and that'll be in March of next year. And we first heard word about this as a possible release when it was listed on Amazon. And now we have all the details, or we hope to have all the details, about the remastered package, especially the deluxe package, as it's been reported, and especially it's on Paul's own website if you want to see all the contents at paulmccartney.com. But for those of you that don't know, it's the album of 13 tracks, and then for the deluxe version, there are 2 CDs, each with 9 demos. And it's the same. It's demos for the same songs. We believe one of the CDs is Paul and Elvis together with demos, and the other CD we think is Paul with the band doing demos. And these are all songs that Paul and Elvis wrote together.
Let me clarify that, Ken, because what I was told exactly was that the second set of demos is more developed, and you can take that, I suppose, whatever way you want to. I would guess that there's probably more instrumentation on them, but I mean, knowing, hearing what we've heard in the past, that doesn't necessarily mean that. But I mean, I think that's probably a good guess that there is.
I have a theory.
Go ahead, Allan.
I have a theory. Mm-hmm. A dinosaur is thin on... I'm sorry. When Paul and Elvis were working on those songs, the original intent, at least as I gather from Elvis's autobiography, was that they were making an album together. And I think they, did the demos, and then they sat down to do the finished stuff. And then Paul sort of set it aside and did Flowers in the Dirt instead. So it could be that disc 2 is more of the finished songs, or more of however far they got on what would have been the Paul and Elvis album. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but yeah.
That would be interesting to hear that second disc, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there has been, and I'm sure many people are aware, there was a bootleg that came out that was really wonderful
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
the Paul McCartney
Sure.
Elvis McManus collaboration. And
Yeah.
it pretty much has everything on there that you'd hope would be on there, including demos for all their songs together.
Yeah.
Plus, they even threw on there a couple of live performances from Paul and Elvis together when they did Mistress and Maid.
Right, right.
And also One After 909.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
you have these 2 discs of demos. And then you've also got a DVD on there, which will have the Put It There documentary and a few other things. And plus, this is where the big controversy comes in. A lot of recordings that are available as downloads only, and they amount to most of the bonus material that you could have found on the CDs and the CD singles that were released at the time. And we're led to believe, at least right now anyway, that the only way to get those songs is as downloads, that they're not being made available on CD, which has caused a bit of an uproar online about that. And I kind of sympathize with the people who feel that way. But I want to know, just based on this information, since we don't have everything in detail yet, what you guys think so far of this package of the deluxe Flowers in the Dirt. Why don't we just start with, why don't we start with you, Kit?
Well, I have to admit I'm stupidly excited about this because I just when you were talking about the bootleg, that wonderful bootleg, the McCartney McManus, it's just I'm just so glad that the material, whether it's in demo form or speculating on whether it's going to be more complete, whatever that means, it's wonderful to finally have this officially released. I'm particularly excited. I think Playboy to a Man is on there.
Yes.
I think was part of that. And I'm excited to hear that because, of course, that was on Mighty Like a Rose. And I'd love to hear the early version of it. So I'm very excited about that. As well, as far as the download issue goes, I have very mixed feelings about that because on the one hand, it's not a big deal really to download material, and I mean I'll be ripping all this stuff to my computer anyway. I mean so people are generally used to it. However, I definitely see the other side because what is the price tag for the deluxe right now? It's like
$149.
Yeah, I knew it was in the 140s somewhere. I mean that is a lot. And I mean I'll get it. I mean I'm sure I'll get it because this album's a personal favorite. But it probably wouldn't have killed them to offer just put it on another CD. So I mean I get what people are saying, that that's a lot of money to spend to then have to download more tracks. But despite these flaws, despite the controversy, I'm very excited. I think this is going to be a terrific package.
Yeah, and as well, a lot of people have pointed out, and I guess it's true, if you took all the material on both CDs of the demos, you probably could fit it all on one CD anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
you could have made room for a CD of all the B-sides and the bonus stuff anyway.
Yeah.
We've complained about that before, and he has an awful habit of doing that. And
Yeah.
you would think that somebody would get a clue and finally figure out that, hey, let's do these things a little more compact and make them a little more worth the money. But
Especially since he's supposed to be green. I mean, why waste another disc and leave half a disc empty? And
Right. Right.
I think the issue with download is not a question of having to download it. I think it's a question of perceived quality. On a disc you're getting it as, basically one would say CD quality since it is a CD, whereas downloading it, I mean, I don't know, Paul has made various kinds of downloads available before. All the deluxe editions come with a free download, and some of the downloads are in really, really high quality and beyond CD. Really, you can download WAV files at 2496.
FLAC files are my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, I think those are great.
Right.
So
so I mean, people who are thinking about the quality, once they sort of remember that this is what the downloads tend to be, or you at least have the choice, may think differently about it. But I think also the people want the convenience of it being on a CD, even if they're going to rip the CD to their computer, which I mean I'm going to do too. But yeah, I think it's just kind of a perceived. I just don't think they necessarily always or kind of like ever think through what their fans actually want. We've discussed that in many contexts before. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a great package. In terms of the stuff that would be on that CD that's missing, I mean, probably a lot of us who are going to buy this disc have the Japanese 2 CD set that has all the B-sides and everything on it anyway. So we sort of have that stuff on CD.
Well, not everything is on that Japanese double disc.
Okay.
Right.
Great collection, but it's not everything.
Okay.
Not everything is on here either. I mean, PS Love Me Do is not there. So
yeah.
Well, you know, there's another thing, which is that Paul, through the years, not just on Flowers in the Dirt, but in this particular case, he has put out songs that were bonus tracks that are older material that wouldn't really fit if you're just assembling songs from this period. Because, for example, on the Put It There CD single, he released Mama's Little Girl, as well as Same Time Next Year. So those are both from the 70s, so that wouldn't make sense to put on here. But at the same time...
Just Love Me Do, he played that on the tour. So I don't... Why not put it on here? That doesn't make it... That's not an argument.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that there are some things that don't make sense. There's actually one recording that I thought of immediately, which is he recorded The Long and Winding Road, a version of that, which was really nice, a very simple arrangement of it. Yeah. And certainly for the people that constantly mock the Phil Spector arrangement of The Long and Winding Road, they probably prefer this version. And it was really nice. It was one of the bonus tracks on, I think, Figure of Eight. One of the different CD singles of Figure of Eight. So, it doesn't have everything on here.
Yeah. I think, however, another thing that people are overlooking when they're complaining about the missing disc and the downloads is how much stuff this set comes with. I mean, all the books and photos and the DVD. Let's not forget the DVD. I mean, in the past, they've been very light on material, and I think this DVD has quite a bunch of stuff that we kind of want. So,
I was really excited that they were going to put the Put It There documentary on there, because I have that on VHS, and that was a great documentary. So I'm glad that that's a wonderful addition.
Yeah. Al, what about your thoughts?
Well, actually, it was echoing what Allan was just saying, is that probably this set probably has more total material on it than almost any of the previous, certainly any of the recent archive releases, which have been fairly skimpy on archival material. But as far as the downloading situation, people basically have to grow up. It's a new world technologically, and obviously it's a cost-cutting mechanism for capital to do one disc's worth of material as downloads. But these days, in fact, Allan, you can probably sort of expand on this, because if I remember correctly, you even said on this show that when you got the Dylan set of the 65, 66 recordings, that Sony then gave you notice that there was another whole bunch of stuff,
like another 12 discs worth or so, maybe more.
And they were only available as downloads?
Yeah. The difference there is that was a complete surprise. All you expected to be getting when you bought the box set was the box set. And this came as a bonus after the fact. And maybe McCartney should have done that. But actually, if he hadn't I think, announced that these things would be at least downloads, everybody would be saying, well, where's Back on My Feet? Where's this? Where's that?
Yeah, right.
So I guess they had to do something like right up front, and download is their solution. But yeah, look, there are some people who are putting out albums only on download now.
Yeah,
and
That's true too.
And here
Allan,
you're getting...
Allan, I was going to ask what format did those downloads come in? Were they MP3s?
Yeah, those were MP3s.
See, there's an issue right there. I mean, because a lot of people are going to be complaining about the fact that they're compressed quality.
I think they
and
were.
You think so?
I think they were MP3s. I mean, it's over a year ago, so.
But McCartney traditionally has used FLAC files. Somebody pointed out online, because I'm looking at some of the comments, WAV files. I can't remember, but I know he's used FLAC files. But if he uses FLAC files, they'll sound fantastic.
Yeah.
The only thing you'll have to do is burn them yourself. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I've said I kind of wish he didn't do this for the convenience sake. I mean, I like having everything with a set in the set, and to have, especially when you pay this much money. When you pay this much money, you shouldn't have to go through, unless he's given you, like Dylan did, 12 more discs of stuff. That's an entirely different issue. This is not 12 discs of stuff. And, I mean, this is actually pretty, not a whole lot. So, I can't see, I think this is kind of a little on the crazy side. But, we'll see what happens. Maybe there is something more to come. I don't know. I'm just guessing off the top. Probably not, but it's still.
Well, I got to tell you that I have some complaints to make about this, but it's not necessarily what you guys are saying. But I do happen to feel that, first of all, to Paul's credit, if you take a look at all the remasters he's put out, he's made them available on vinyl. Mm-hmm. He's made them available as high quality digital files,
right,
as well as on CD. So he's addressing that. But what bothers me the most about this is not just the fact about the download issue, because I don't like to buy things as downloads. I really want the physical product, and that's just me, and it could be an age thing, but when you think about it, as much as I would love to say that so many people who are going to buy this are teenagers, I don't think that's the case. Most of the people who are going to be buying this are older folks like us. Well, not Kit, but she's not the same category. He's a little
Thank you,
younger.
Ken. Thank you, Ken.
You just made okay. You just insulted the rest of us. Thanks, Ken.
But the older folks want physical product. So we're going to be caring more about the CDs than getting stuff digitally. But it's not just that. The thing is that, yes, when this album came out, there was some attention, decent amount of attention, given to the fact that Paul was working with Elvis Costello on writing songs, as they should have at the time. But this is not a Paul McCartney and Elvis Costello album. And the only bonus material that we're getting on CD here are the Paul and Elvis songs. And so to me, I'm looking at this as though all those B-sides, bonus songs, are given a lower status. There's more to Flowers in the Dirt than the fact that there are 4 songs on the album that were Paul and Elvis songs. And not only that, the way that Paul and Elvis worked was that they scattered these songs on each other's albums. And so some of the songs that are on here as bonus material on the CDs were on Off the Ground. There were songs that were on Off the Ground, not Flowers in the Dirt, and on Elvis's albums. Mm-hmm. So I don't like the fact that all the attention on CD is being given to Paul and Elvis songs as much as I love those songs. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, I can also see from a listening point of view, there's 4 different mixes of Où Le Soleil. There. I know that, Allan is just foaming at the mouth.
I can't wait.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know how many fans listen to all different mixes of the same song over and over and over again. I mean, I remember when Hope for the Future came out, and there are all these different mixes that came out at the same time. How many times do you listen to every mix over and over? Right. So as a listening experience, I wouldn't want a CD that had 4 mixes of the same song all at once. By the same token, I just feel like those songs, the bonus material, and some of these songs are great. Flying to My Home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great one.
B-sides, right? Yeah, I love Good Sign. I thought that was a great dance track there. Well, that stuff like that should not be resigned to just being downloads.
Right.
So, I just feel like they're separating that from the Paul and Elvis stuff. And this wasn't a Paul and Elvis album. It was a Paul and Elvis album on 4 tracks out of 13.
Well, but it was intended originally as a Paul and Elvis album, and then they did the different thing. I mean, the idea of scattering among both of their albums was kind of a solution of what to do with the songs that they had done for an album that they were going to do together.
Plus, frankly, at least the unreleased material that has been the most in demand are indeed those demos with Elvis Costello.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, but like I said before, you could have fit them all on one CD, and you could have made a second CD of just all the bonus stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
you could have had just Uwe Le Soleil as downloads, have those 4 mixes as those downloads, and probably nobody would complain and nobody would even bother downloading them, except those of us who want to make mashups with Cambridge 69.
There we go. And there's probably more stuff from the studio that could have been tacked onto this, set.
Yeah.
That is not in there. I mean, that's relatively little when you think about it. So.
Yeah, and then what do you do when Off the Ground comes out? So now you're probably not gonna have the Paul and Elvis stuff on there. Then I guess you would make way for all the bonus material there and put that on a CD. Mm-hmm. So why is it on one album you don't put the bonus material on CD and another one you would?
Yeah.
I don't want to get too wrapped up in the logic of Paul, if there is logic here being used. But, and then you got a situation like Back on My Feet. The demo is there for Back on My Feet, as well as the recording for the studio recording for that song. And that was the B-side of Once Upon a Long Ago, which is not on here.
Right.
So I guess he's saving that for Press to Play. I guess. I don't know. I don't want to get into Paul's mind. It's too dangerous.
Oh, admit it, Ken. You do.
No, so, but I'm still excited about the whole thing. I mean, Flowers in the Dirt is my favorite McCartney album. I love the entire album. I love the material. So to hear all these demos will be great. But it does bother me, the whole download issue.
Anyway.
So, there you go.
There you go.
Why don't we move on to our main topic, which is the Christmas list that Kit has put together, as well as
Did I give my opinion? I guess I did.
You did.
Okay. All
okay.
right.
You can continue. We can continue.
I think I basically said, as an album, I mean, I'm pretty excited about this too, and I don't normally get excited about McCartney albums that much. But I mean, I thought this album was some of his best work. My Brave Face was just tremendous, and it was really representative of how good this album was. And as much as I remember, I mean, this was the first tour that I saw McCartney.
Me too.
In fact, this is one of the few shows that I've been to that it's actually out on bootleg, and it's the Berkeley show. And I'll never forget, as they were singing Figure of Eight, Linda yelled, "Yeah!" And I remember smiling and turning to my wife and going, "Yeah, I mean, can you believe that?" And it's on the bootleg, clear as a bell. I mean, they got a soundboard from it, but
cool.
Yeah, I that was a memorable moment from that show. But
yeah. I do want to bring up one thing, because there's actually one song title here of the Paul and Elvis songs that I've never heard of.
The Tommy one, yeah.
No, that was on the bootleg. That was on the McCartney
it was?
McManus.
Huh.
Yeah, but there's one called I Don't Want to Confess, which is listed as a cassette demo. Have any of you ever heard about that song?
No.
Okay.
Newest
Well, there's a song that's entirely new to us. So.
There you go.
Yep.
Why don't we move on to the Christmas list and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa list of 2016.
Festivus.
Let's cover them all.
There we
We
go.
haven't mentioned whatever your representation is. We're sorry. But the list for 2016. Kit, why don't we start with you?
Well, I mean, the obvious ones that I listed. I mean, 8 Days a Week was the major release, and certainly the most hyped of the year. And and it's interesting because I'm still, in fact, I'm getting. I think my copy is going to arrive tomorrow, the DVD. It's interesting how a lot of people are saying that the extras are actually better than the original film in some ways. So I think
we basically kind of said that too.
Yeah. And so I'm very, very anxious to see that. So that's a must. The Hollywood Bowl was a huge highlight for me this year. I mean, to hear those recordings in such clarity, was just to me a revelation. And I know there's some flaws with it, and people are saying, why wasn't the whole concert put in, why in sequence and that sort of thing. And that's true. Those are some downsides. But I'll tell you, I mean, to me, it was just it was a brand new experience listening to this remaster, and that was one of my all-time favorite releases this year. And one of the books that I recommended on my list, which actually ran on something else reviews. It's not in Beatle Fan. It's something else reviews.
Right.
But the book, The Beatles in Canada, by Piers Hemmingson.
Yeah.
I really was blown away by this. It is a beautifully done. I mean, it's sort of a coffee table book in a way, in that there are just some gorgeous reproductions of memorabilia. But this is a case where just when you think you've heard everything there is to hear about the Beatles, there are these stories that come out in these areas of Beatles history that you just don't know much about, or you, for whatever reason, don't think as much about it. And this is a full look at how the Beatles broke in Canada, what the Canadian music scene was like at the time, how Canadian radio helped break them, and it to me it was just fascinating. I wouldn't recommend it for a casual fan. This is more for the collector, for the researcher. But Piers just did an incredible job. Mark Lewison writes the foreword for it, and it to me that was another highlight and a revelation of 2016. I can't recommend this book enough.
Okay. Anything else for the year?
Let's see. Oh, another book that came out by someone we all know, and this is another case of a story you don't think that much about, is Sarah Schmidt, who we all know from Meet the Beatles for Real, the site. She came out with a book called Beatlemania in St. Louis, and she chronicled all their tours, tour stops there. And what's really great about it is there are some rare photos in there. I mean, it's sort of an extension of her site in a way that is really interesting. Again, just sort of zooming in on a particular area of Beatles history and how Beatlemania impacted one town. And I should also mention Klaus Vormann's book, Birth of an Icon, Revolver 50. A little bit of a splurge, but it's worth it. Yeah, it's a bit of a splurge, but it's worth it. It's a beautifully done book where it's sort of a graphic novel, really, where he retells the story of the recording of Revolver, but talk about an inside view. I mean,
right.
Yeah, right. And it's just, but to have it, instead of just, I mean, he could have just written a straightforward book on it. He could have just done, had a co-writer interview him or whatever. But to do it in this way, in this graphic novel, and of course he does the illustrations, I thought was so unique and in a great way to mark the 50th anniversary, of course, of the album. So, as I said, if you're looking for a splurge, this is a real, I mean, it's a keepsake, even more than just a book on the making of an album. It's beautifully, beautifully done.
Wow, I really want to see that book.
It's gorgeous.
It is.
It really is. And, very, very special. Any Beatles fan will love this book.
Yeah. Also, when you mentioned the Beatles in St. Louis, it reminded me of the Beatles in Cleveland from Dave
Yes.
Swinson.
Dave
So when you're
Dave Swenson's book, yeah. That's a great
zeroing
book.
in on a particular city, so yeah.
And I believe there's another one too. Belmo, I believe, did a
Yes.
book. I can't remember what city he
I
focused on.
can't remember either, but yeah, that was yes,
Belmo did one too. Yeah, those localized, and I mean, there's been a couple of DVD things, of Beatles in Portland. Those localized things are really kind of cool. It's too bad there isn't one for more cities. But so Sarah did do a good job, and she also covered Benton, Illinois, in the book. Which was something I didn't expect, and I asked her about that, and but yeah, she did that too, and the rare graphics in there are just really really nice. She did a good job with that.
That's true, and absolutely. And I should mention another one that I recommend. A friend of all of ours, Ken Womack, has finally released the paperback version of the Beatles Encyclopedia. And I'll tell you, I mean, I've talked about this book with many people. I have the hardcover version, and I really think it's a must-add for anyone's library. I mean, I refer to it all the time. It's a great way to look up, specific areas, some dates, things like. I mean, it's just a great reference, and this being Ken, it's a very thorough look, but the hardcover version was really meant for libraries. It was pretty cost prohibitive. Well, now he finally came out with the paperback version, so I definitely recommend that one as well.
Okay, very good. All right, Steve.
Well, a few of what she mentioned are more on my list too. The Revolver book was. I also mentioned a couple of other coffee table books. Tom Murray's Mad Day Out, which basically goes back through. I mean, he's done books on this before, but he went back to the original sites for this one, and reprinted the pictures. The Beatles: A Hard Day's Night, a private archive with the captions by Mark Lewison is another. Yeah. There's a lot of unseen pictures in that. There's the Genesis book, Hello Goodbye, the Beatles in Tokyo '66, which one of us, Mr. Cozen, is involved with. He wrote the introduction. Those are all the pictures on and off stage, taken by Shinpei Asai. There's also All You Need Is Love, which is actually a really nice book because it's got all the unused pictures from that session. But getting away from the photo books, I had a lot of things on my list that were kind of half related. I just this weekend finished watching Candy and Blind Man, both of which Candy came out on Blu-ray in the summer. Blind Man came out again in November. It's been out before, but according to what I've seen, the versions have been edited. This is the unedited hour and 45-minute version, and they both have kind of a parallel. Ringo plays a Mexican gardener in Candy and a Mexican bandit in Blind Man, and he has an accent. I mean, listening to Ringo trying to fake a Mexican accent is hilarious. And
the film producers at that time must have been talking amongst themselves. We need a Mexican voice.
Ringo.
Ringo.
Maybe we can get him to pay for the wall.
Really, Candy is hilarious. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the fact they got all those people in there was really, Marlon Brando, James Coburn. I mean, that's, the cast of that thing is just absolutely stunning. John Astin, who actually is really good. And so this is out on Blu-ray for the first time. Blind Man is not. They did not send me a Blu-ray, so I don't think it's out on Blu-ray. Blind Man is a very brutal film, and Ringo is not a nice guy in this film at all. And it's a kind of a Clint Eastern spaghetti western. And what's really funny is Tony Anthony, who plays Blind Man, for a blind guy, has good aim. I mean, it's hilarious. But actually, in doing research, I didn't know this. According to IMDb, Allan Klein is in the movie. I mean, this is the DVD comes from Abco Films. Allan Klein is in the movie. he plays a guy hiding in a window, which I missed. I didn't catch that, but I mean that's kind of funny.
He was going for a Hitchcock thing.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, but both of them are, are full of. Neither of these are G-rated. Let's put it that way. They are very, very R, and so there you go. But all right. Let's get away from those. Other things to recommend: Soundbreaking, which is
absolutely
fabulous.
I've only started watching that. I haven't seen the whole thing yet.
It's fabulous.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is. And what's really a knockout on that is the use of not only Beatle recording sessions, but other people's recording sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not just, there's all sorts of recording sessions in there. But yeah, I mean, the interviews and everything are fantastic. Peter Asher is among the people in there. It's really good. I mean, that's just fantastic. The Tammy Show and the big TNT show on Blu-ray. TNT has not been out on DVD before.
What's the Beatles content there?
Well, there is no Beatles content, but there is Jerry and the Pacemakers,
Billy J.
Kramer,
Uh-huh.
right?
So there is Brian
Peripheral.
Epstein,
Yeah.
and plus the Rolling Stones are there, and there's all sorts. I mean, just about as I wrote, just about every group that was big in the '60s or in '64 and '65 is there, except for the Beatles. So that's of interest. The Beach Boys Party and Uncovered and Unplugged has, I think I counted 14 different covers of Beatles songs. I mean, of the same songs.
Tell Me Why.
Tell Me Why.
Right, I should have known better.
I should have known better. Ticket to Ride. Plus Twist and Shout and Long Tall Sally. And it's 2 CDs with over 80 tracks. And if you get the Amazon exclusive, it comes with a free lithograph of the Beach Boys in the studio, which is actually really nice looking. That's the way I got it. Another kind of Beatle related thing is the Mickey Dolenz MGM singles collection, which has when the thing was first put out on digital, or actually, Mickey included a single of a session he did with Christian Nesmith and Saoirse Link that included a version of Good Morning, Good Morning. That's on the CD now. And, I mean, the collection itself, I mean, it seems like it's all kind of haphazard, but it actually works very nicely. So there's something else. And also, Terry Draper of Klaatu has a new album called Searching that, of course, is very Beatleish all the way through. There's no Beatle covers, but he does do Younger Girl and Flower Girl from The Rain, the Park, and the Other Things by the Cowsills. But it's a very Klaatu-ish, Beatleish sounding CD. So, and I also mentioned 2 other books, Beatles 66 by Steve Turner, which is a good review of 1966, and Paul McCartney, The Life, which is a okay look at Paul McCartney, although it's more the person rather than the musician, which we've talked.
That's the Philip Norman book.
Norman book, which we talked about when we had it. So there's my big list. I mean, that's
a long list there, Steve.
It took me a while to dig all that. So the Candy and the Blind Man thing was fun watching that over the weekend. It was like, am I really watching these 2 things back to back? I mean, I did basically. But those are something. And actually, as I point out, a lot of his films are still. I mean, a lot of his films are available on CD. 200 Motels. Where else? Where's my list? 200
DVD.
Motels, Listomania, Magic Christian, of course, Caveman.
That's right.
And also Sextet, which is the
Mae West.
final
Right.
film. Mae West, yeah. So
Yeah. What about That'll Be the Day?
I think that's out of. I think that's long out of print. I didn't look that up, but I believe that's out of print.
I have that on Laserdisc.
I have the DVD. It may be Ringo. I think that's Ringo's only nude scene, actually. So there we go.
I'm hearing crickets chirping in the background.
I really don't remember that, Steve.
Ringo naked.
You what?
I really don't remember that.
For a second.
Don't remember that?
I must have averted my eyes.
You're right. Yes.
I just like the silence that accompanies that. Let's all think about that. Ringo naked. All right, moving on.
Allan, how about your list?
Okay. Well, several of the things I would have mentioned already have been. For instance, Hard Day's Night Private Archive, really nicely done. And I was going to mention the Shinpei Asai book as well, since I've written the historical background part of it. And they're really good pictures. Strangely, I mean, I don't know if people who are really into the Japanese tour, there are now like maybe 4 books worth of things, including one by Robert Whittaker, who followed them to Japan. And Whittaker has, an awful lot of interesting stuff. I mean, one thing I was kind of surprised that Shinpei Asai didn't have is the Beatles painting, the collaborative painting they did in Tokyo, which Robert Whittaker has several shots of them working on. But I guess Mr. Asai wasn't there, when they were working on it. But he has a very interesting approach to, he shot them doing various things, playing with some of the things people gave them, like Japanese instruments, a shakuhachi, and I think not a koto, but there's a guitar-like instrument, samisen, I think it may be called. And things like that. And he also, in a lot of cases, shoots the empty room or the table where they were eating or something like that. So it gives you perspective of, what the place was like where they were staying in the Tokyo Hilton. I also, seeing as, my pals at Genesis have been pretty busy this year. Apart from Shinpei Asai, there's a new version of I Me Mine that was supposed to be available for Christmas, and I think it's been put forward to like January or February. But it's and that comes with a 7-inch single that has I think it has a demo of All Things Must Pass, or one of the All Things Must Pass songs. I was a little disappointed by what they were including on the disc, because that wasn't, they announced that there'd be a disc, details to come later, and they really just announced it, and it's just like really one track that we don't have. But, it's, I Me Mine, everyone pretty much probably has the original trade version or the original Genesis version. It was a really nicely done book, and they've added, pictures of his manuscripts of a whole bunch of songs from after 1980.
Right.
So it's expanded, and it's, I think, worth getting. Let's see. Chuck Gunderson's books came out in paperback this year.
Yes.
So if you didn't get
I missed it. Why didn't I mention those?
Yeah,
yep, I forgot too.
To leave me something to say, Steve.
There you go.
And I don't know, did Lennonology come out this year or last year? But I don't know.
I think it was late
still
last year.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you don't have it, it's still in print. Our pals who've been on the show, the Weaklings, it's funny.
Yes.
I've actually been listening to their album, a bunch of times since we had them on, and it's really a lot of fun. And so, if you somehow haven't gotten that, or passed it by, it's definitely a fun thing to spend some time with, and they're good musicians, and so I'm all for supporting good musicians. So let's see. That pretty much.
By the way,
I have one more thing to mention that I just thought of just now. Lawrence Juber just put out a Christmas album,
Right.
and I'm trying to look it up here because I can't remember the full name of it, and it's really beautiful. I mean, he did a fantastic. I mean, it's called Holidays and Holly Nights. And it's typical Lawrence Juber, which means to say it's very acoustic based, and he does a beautiful job finger picking some great Christmas songs. And basically, there's no Beatles stuff in it. I mean, although he does kind of sneak in what appears to sound like a Beatles riff at one point, but I mean, it's a beautiful album. So
you know what's worth looking for? I don't know if it's still in print even, but it's traveling around online various places. There's a group called the Fab Four did an album called Hark. You all know that one? And basically it's Christmas songs done in the style that the Beatles, did them. So for instance, they'll take a Christmas song lyric and basically do it as Help, or I Saw Her Standing.
Mm-hmm.
I Saw Her Standing There. They do Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
In fact, I think they've done two, and then the sort of antecedent of that is this album by this group called the Rubber Band, who called themselves Beatmas, which was I think it was called Hark, if I remember correctly.
No, Hark is the Fab Four album.
Okay.
Beatmas is I can't remember the name of it now, but you're right about that Beatmas coming first. There's also another album called I believe it's called Abbey Road Christmas. That also has imitations of the Beatles on it that isn't nearly as good as the Fab Four. I have it. I have a download of it, but I bought from eMusic, I think it was. But it's not that great. It's not nearly as good as the Fab Four.
The Fab Four and Beatmas I play on my Christmas show every year.
Right.
Oh, great.
So, the Fab Four ones are so well done and so well executed. And the brilliance of it is trying to coordinate these Christmas songs and thinking what Beatles song works with it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the most brilliant thing of all was Frosty the Snowman, which starts off just like Mr. Moonlight.
Yes.
And the guy who sings the lead vocal sounds so much like John. And it's just, I think Feliz Navidad is done like And I Love Her. And it really works.
And Hark is done. Hark, the Herald Angels Sing is done, I think, like Help. And they did a video for it where they do basically a shot by shot version of the film version of Help.
And they use the count in from the studio, from the bootleg where the engineer counts in and says take two or something. So, I mean, that's, and if you go, and I was listening to it the other day, and what was funny was you can hear all these licks that they just lifted straight from Beatle albums right onto the, right into the music. It's hilarious.
That's great.
Yeah.
Al, we have to hear from you.
Well, I think we've actually covered just about everything. The only thing that I think we haven't mentioned, and it's not, and it's just really is a collectible, is this Lego Yellow Submarine set that came out this fall.
Yeah. I have it.
Yeah, so
I haven't put it together yet, but.
For people who are into those types of things, either Lego things or puzzles, or that's certainly I've heard very good feedback about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Kurt Adler put out a bunch of new Beatles Christmas ornaments this year, including a yellow submarine and a Sgt. Pepper drum. So.
Well, I have my list, but it's pretty much all been covered here.
Yeah.
I think once Steve brought up Lawrence Juber, I think I had nothing left. But I'll just quickly run down the list. The 8 Days a Week DVD, Beatles Live at the Hollywood Bowl, Pure McCartney, I really liked as a compilation. And I think it's really good for the newbie to pick up Pure McCartney there. In the Blink of an Eye, I thought was a really good song, the one new song from Paul this year. The Weakling Studio 2, Lawrence Juber. Paul and Ringo touring as a highlight of the year, just the mere fact that they're still at it on a regular basis. The paperback came out for Tune In, Mark Lewison's book.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Yep.
This is a big year for paperbacks of previous hardcover books. And as Al mentioned, soundbreaking. Really, what I have watched of that show looks just, it's exhilarating.
It's fabulous. And it's really nice to know that it was probably the last project that Sir George Martin was involved with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. There was one particular episode where they talk about the Beatles, and in particular Revolver and Tomorrow Never Knows, and spent a lot of time on that.
Yes.
And they bounce off that. I think that they kind of compare Pet Sounds with Revolver and mixing in Sgt. Pepper, and it's really fascinating stuff what they were doing. And yes, the Chuck Gunderson books in paperback. Some fun tonight. So that's my list too.
If I may add one more, I forgot to mention was George Fest. I thought that was very interesting. I didn't the George Fest, the DVD and CD. That was a pleasant surprise. When I first heard that, you hear of some of these tribute concerts and you think, I don't know, but this one, I thought it was a very eclectic group of artists, and they did some very interesting interpretations of a lot of George's songs. So if you're a George fan, particularly, I think it's worth a listen and to see the concert, because it's, as I said, just very unusual interpretations and artists you wouldn't necessarily, automatically say, oh, they're a perfect fit. There are some obvious ones. They have Brian Wilson, I think is in it, Nora Jones, and some others. But there are some nice surprises in there too. So that was as I said, pleasant surprise.
Not only that, but they cover not just the big hits.
Right, exactly.
There. And in particular, I think it was Ian Astbury of The Cult did Be Here Now. And it was just stunning. It really was. By the same token, is it Weird Al Yankovic that did What Is Life?
Yeah. Really unusual picks like that. And just, not people you would associate, as really interpreting the songs, but they did a great job. I was, as I said, that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Just to hear certain songs that normally you don't hear on the radio from George. I think, Danny did a really good version of Let It Down.
Oh, that was, I think, probably my favorite part of that whole thing. That he just did an incredible job.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I would suspect the Brian Wilson autobiography also has a lot about the Beatles in it. Have any of you guys seen that?
No.
Yeah.
I Am Brian Wilson, it's called, a memoir.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I don't have it.
The couple of reviews that I've seen, actually, they were comparative reviews of Brian's book and Mike Love's book. And actually, Mike Love's book got better reviews.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it sounds like Brian's book, which was compiled apparently from a series of interviews that were done with him for this project. The problem, it's the usual problem of which Brian you get on a particular day, whether it's, whether he's all, whether open and willing to talk or whether he's completely closed up.
Yeah.
So apparently it's very uneven.
Okay, so in addition to talking about the past year, one of the things I like to bring up in our year-end show is to give us our own wish list for what we would like for next year. And in particular, we'll mention one from each Beatle and then a group release. So why don't we start with Allan?
Okay. Let's see, from each Beatle. I'd like to see actually a new studio album from Paul. I think the inclination seems to be to put out a lot of tour albums these days, and not just him. Look at the Stones, for God's sake.
Yeah, really.
But I'd like to hear some new studio stuff. With Paul, you never know what it's going to be. It might be something I like, might be something I don't like, but that's part of the adventure, and just would like to hear some new stuff. So, and I suppose the same from Ringo. Why not? From John and George.
No, why not was a few years ago already.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah. Outtakes from Why Not. Yeah. I'd like to see from George and John, obviously, some more archival projects. In a way, you can't fault Yoko. She's done quite a lot of archival stuff over the years, but lately there hasn't been too much, and I think there's still plenty of that stuff left. There's out on bootleg, just based on things like the Lost Lennon tapes and other things that have gotten out. There's a huge set of demos from 1975 to 80. She's put out some of that, but not a lot of it, and not a huge percentage of it. So I'd like to see more of those and maybe some more studio outtakes from the earlier albums. And the same with George. I mean, we could even start with, the early takes volume 2, but there is plenty more George to be heard, and I think they're moving a little too slowly on this project. So let's say the John George ring. I think I've done all 4 of the solo ones. So for group stuff, God, what am I usually saying they should be doing that they're not doing well? Maybe the Let It Be film with an extra disc of good stuff from the filming sessions, the alternate edit of Let It Be where it's a relatively happy film. And, just at any time they want to put out, something like the anthologies, I'm always interested in that stuff. I mean, they could put out a huge amount of BBC stuff that's still not out there apart from on bootlegs. What I guess I'd like to see them do, the Beatles as a group do, is stop surrendering the market to bootleggers and collectors who, put out things everybody wants to hear when they could be doing it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Kit, how about you?
Oh my gosh. I'd love another live album from Ringo. We haven't had one of those in a while, and I'd love to hear whether it's an all-star album or if he's doing, he does some of the, he does some other solo tours. I'd love to hear that. George, absolutely, I'm going to echo Allan here. I want early takes volume 2. In fact, I would love an anthology like they did, like Yoko did for John, some years ago. I would love to see a deluxe set like that for George.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think everything will be a single disc at a time.
I know, but it's a wish list.
Right.
It's my wish. I can dream. Let's see. With Paul, absolutely. I would love. I've always would have loved to have Cold Cuts out as a real album, but again, that's a dream. But absolutely, new material would be great. John, definitely, I'd love to hear some more. As Allan just said, more demos that are still out there. And for the group, I think Allan touched on this already too, but I'd love a complete BBC collection. We have a lot. A lot has come out, but there's still stuff out there. And I love their live BBC sessions. And so I absolutely would love to see that released. And of course, Let It Be, that goes without saying. So Allan mentioned pretty much a lot of my top picks already, but that's what I think I'd like. But again,
okay.
It's a dream.
I can dream, can I?
That's
as
right.
the song said. Al, you're next.
Okay. Very similar list. Certainly for Ringo and Paul, new studio albums, which I think are pretty much in the works anyway. I think there's a very good chance that we're going to see new studio albums from both of them. Of course, Flowers in the Dirt would have been part of a wish list, but now that's become reality. For John, some kind of archival release. I don't know whether the attitude is that they've exhausted most of the really good material. Who knows? But some kind of archival release would be nice. I keep going back to the same well with George. This album that he talked about in the interview that he did with Timothy White at the end of 2000, I guess it was.
It was actually when the Yellow Submarine song track came out. He gave.
Oh, it was a year earlier then.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And talked about this multi-disc set of outtakes and rare tracks and various and sundry things, and that's never come close to any kind of release. And also, and I believe it was Olivia who had talked about this at some point, was a recording from the 1974 tour, which, aside from those 2 weeks in Japan in 1991, it's the only tour that he ever did. And so there should be some audio document of that tour.
And video. And video as well. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It looks more likely though. Steve had a piece over the weekend, I think, that apparently it's more likely that we're just going to see a vinyl box of some kind, which is apparently what Danny was hinting at in an internet posting. Within the last few days. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see. And for the group, the obvious, Let It Be, but it would be, as Kit's suggestion, it would be really, really nice to get an official version of the Great Dane BBC box.
There you go.
Some kind of relatively complete BBC document, because like Kit, the BBC recordings are among my favorite parts of the Beatle canon.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you'd want them to put out now is the Lord Reith version, which is 24 discs, including a DVD.
Okay.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
I'm still working with the Great Dane box.
There we go.
And what do you think the reality is of that coming out?
Zip.
Yeah, zero.
24 discs. We get 2 at a time.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah, and with the comments between the tracks edited so that they're not really, totally what was said, I think they have to stop that, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In fact, another Christmas wish, just another holiday wish, would be for Apple to hire people who are really, really devoted to this stuff and want to do it right and know what the sources are and know what the material is and will be able to talk them into not doing it the record business way, but doing it in the people who want to hear what actually happened way.
Well, I think that they had to start with you. Actually,
there are a lot of people they could start with, but
but you would be a good start on that one, Alan.
Absolutely.
So
all of us would.
No, I said that too. Yeah.
Steve,
I would like. All right, let me start with George. I recently, I shouldn't say. I mean, they've been out there for a long time. They're when we're talking about George archival releases, there's a whole series of All Things Must Pass stripped stuff. That should come out. It'd be great to put that out, like John and Yoko did with Double Fantasy stripped. All Things Must Pass.
Good idea.
As far as Ringo and Paul,
maybe all the demos that have come out of All Things Must Pass material is kind of representing that.
Yeah.
As opposed to the studio versions of the songs on the album just stripped down, which I like that idea too. But
Ringo and Paul are both both working on new albums, so I think that's probably, I don't think there's anywhere to go with that. I don't know that a Ringo live album would be anything to get excited about. Paul probably just to have it or just to document it because he keeps changing the set list every year. I think that would probably be a good thing. But as far as John goes, there's all sorts of things you could do there. Here's something that came to me. How about some John and Yoko sessions? And I know there's people out there going to cringe going, Yoko, no! But actually, two of them worked together in the studio doing some very interesting stuff. And maybe if you distill that down to a single album of stuff they did, Walking on Thin Ice, of course, is one thing, but there were all sorts of single tracks that you could go through all the way through their history that they worked on together. I think some of that, and there's probably stuff in the studio that we've never heard that I think would be kind of interesting. As far as the group goes, there's three things. Let It Be, I think they're saving for the 50th anniversary. I think that's gonna. I think they're gonna hit that then.
They don't get involved with anniversaries.
Well, yeah. They do when it comes to the copyright situation, and I don't think they're going to let that pass without doing something for that, and that may be the reason why they're sitting on it so long. I'd gladly be wrong on this, because I really think this is getting insane. This is ridiculous. Yeah. Quit screwing around and put the stupid movie out. I mean, come on. If you're listening, guys, there probably is somebody listening, but let's stop with the BS and get this thing out. I mean, there's no reason to hold on to it now. It's almost 50 years. Everybody's seen it. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. I realize that there's some sensitivity about this thing, but let's just forget it and get it over with and get it out. I mean, we've seen the clips in 8 days a week, and in other places. It looks fantastic. Let's quit messing around and get it out. The same. I'd also mention as a sidelight Shea Stadium, but I think Let It Be is a lot more important. And if to mess around, let's get that out. Another thing to put out is the Christmas album. Why? Here we have another Christmas, and we still don't have the Christmas album out, and that blows me away. I can't understand that either. When we have, there are some crazy Christmas albums out there. I've been doing a little bit of listening, and I don't know that I mentioned it on the air, but one of the things I picked up in my travels this year was the Twisted Sister album, which is absolutely hilarious. And if you haven't heard it, go on YouTube and listen to "Oh Come All Ye Faithful." It will make you scream. It is so funny. And I mean, the Beatles thing is hilarious, and that's the reason to put it out. I mean, it's a between the humor in the first couple of recordings and the music in the later ones. I mean, it's a document. It's a great piece of it's a great piece of art. Put the stupid thing out. But the other thing would be get back and start doing the bootleg recordings again. Why the reason to quit that was dumb for whatever. Whoever decided that wasn't worth it anymore, start doing that again. Get those out. The Beatles are getting, if I can use the word screwed, they are getting screwed by companies in Europe that are using that public domain law to their advantage. And they're putting out, 5 and 6 disc sets that are relatively cheap. Of BBC, of Beatles, of live stuff. There's even one that has Ed Sullivan stuff, which I don't know how the hell they're getting away with that one. But the way the Beatles could put a stop to that is to put the stuff out themselves. Back to what Allan was saying. Let's quit messing around. Put this stuff out.
Well, they can also put a stop to it their traditional way, which is to sue them.
Yeah.
Right. In Europe, though, it's different, Allan, and that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from. I mean, you can't get it here, but all you have to do is go, to one of the online vendors across the sea, and you can get it very easily. I don't want to mention the record labels, but there's one, there's a couple that are doing it, and it's just stupid that they're letting this happen. It's crazy. And it's almost a tragedy that these guys are getting away with this stuff, and the Beatles aren't taking advantage of it. I mean, well,
we've talked about this a lot
here
on the show about the Beatles have such a high standard that they set that they don't want to put out something that is below par. in their minds, and we might think differently. And we also think that so many things have such historical importance. And I agree with that philosophy. There's no reason why the Beatles at Shea Stadium shouldn't be out. Think of the historical importance of that. But then we're not them, and we don't think like them necessarily.
What you're getting is you're getting "Love Me Do," "P.S. I Love You," the studio recordings. There's no compromising quality there. You're getting Philadelphia, the recording which we talked about a couple weeks ago, that is excellent quality. You're getting BBC stuff, which again is excellent quality. I mean, the quality of the recordings themselves is not an issue. It's the fact that these collections are being put out, under their name, and they're not making any money off of it because it's because of the laws in Europe. Is what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's stupid that the Beatles are just kind of letting this stuff happen.
But it's a misunderstanding of the law in Europe because it does not become public domain. The rights revert to the artists. The whole aspect of copyright there is to do with whether the record company maintains the copyright on it, and it does not become public domain. I mean, I think that's sort of a huge misunderstanding of the European law, and that's why Apple could sue them successfully if they bothered doing it.
Okay.
If the Beatles wanted it out, they'd put it out.
Yeah.
It's just that simple,
Yeah.
So, my list will take less than a minute. John, it's very simple. We've been hearing for the last several years that Jack Douglas has been working on the one-to-one concerts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Where are they?
Good call.
You could put together the afternoon and evening show together. I don't know if there's any conflict there because ABC broadcast it at the time. The evening show was broadcast.
Shouldn't make a difference.
Nah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that had anything to do with holding. Why did John Lennon live in New York City? Why was that the afternoon show? Does anyone know?
Nope.
But, and put that out, a CD in the best sound quality, because the CD that came out in 1986, the sound quality is awful.
Yep.
So very tinny sounding. So that's what I would want from John, although I always want more of the material that we heard on the Lost Lennon tapes that have never come out commercially. I'd love to hear more of that. Paul, new album, goes without saying. Although, let's not rule out the possibility here that just because Flowers in the Dirt's coming out next year, there might be another remaster coming out at the end of the year, because we didn't get one this year. So, maybe this whole thing with Paul re-signing with Capitol and Universal delayed Flowers in the Dirt. I don't know what the reasoning was behind it, but we may get a second remaster next year. He has done that from time to time. Tug of War and Pipes of Peace came out together. So that might happen. And also, one thing that Steve was talking about with a live album, I really think that it's long overdue. Good Evening New York City came out in 2009, I think. And in all the tours since then, he's toured every single year. There's a lot of songs that he's done live that have never come out officially, commercially. A lot of Beatles songs in particular that have not come out at all. I think, that's kind of overdue, I think. So I'd like to see something like that come out.
Except that there is the issue of, as we've talked about how many times now, his voice.
Yeah.
Yep. But still, Paul will oversee something like that, and he won't put out anything unless he's happy with it. So, so we'll see about that. George, Early Takes Volume 2. I love Volume 1. Volume 2, it's so long overdue. Just the quality of all the songs on Volume 1. And a few surprises that were in there that we didn't even know about in Volume 1. Like Let It Be Me was a nice surprise. There might be so many little chestnuts like that we don't know about. But, part of our interest, extreme interest in all this is that we don't know all that exists. And as, George did say in that Billboard interview with Timothy White, I've got more unreleased stuff than Jim Reeves, the country artist. So let's hear it. You know?
Yep.
And for Ringo, a new album as well. The interesting thing about Paul, when it comes to studio albums of new material, if you go back to Flowers in the Dirt, you will find that in most cases, new albums came out of new material every 4 years. Not counting Run Devil Run and anything classical and The Fireman, just the pop stuff. Most of the time, it's 4 years. And new came out in 2013. So it's time. So, and with the Beatles, I would definitely go with Let It Be. Although I would like to see some kind of concert compilation of some kind. I think that's so important as in terms of history.
Yep.
You know, to put out the Beatles at Shea, definitely. I don't understand why that shouldn't come out. It's
Right.
You know, there's so many concerts we can point to, but that was the first stadium concert. And I do think that, you know, whenever I do hear the audio of it and the performance of it, no matter how much you might talk about the sweetening of it, I think it sounds great. And I wouldn't be ashamed to release it. So I hope that comes out in the next few years. But Let It Be, to me, more than anything else, should be out there. And I don't know if I brought this up on the show because I did attend a Q&A with Jeff Jones, the CEO of Apple. And it's kind of ironic. You know, we talk about this whole thing about the Beatles being aimed at the millennials. They were showing 8 days a week in colleges, which is smart because you got young kids watching this. And at the Q&A, the very first question anybody in the audience said was, when is Let It Be coming out? And this is so it's like he's aware of, you know, where things are in the Beatle world right now. And Jeff did say plans are underway as we speak. So that doesn't mean it's coming out next year, but I do believe it will come out. I guess what they have to really think about is what bonus material will be on there, if at all. So, yeah, I think Let It Be will come out. I'm hoping for next year. I can't imagine it being that much longer of a wait. So
That's what we said 2 years ago.
Yeah.
well, this was a direct quote from Jeff, so I'm going with that. All right, so that puts a wrap on this show. If anyone would like to get in touch with us, there's any number of ways they can do so. We have an email address here, which is thingswesaidtodayradioshow@gmail.com. We have our own Facebook page at Things We Said Today. We have a Twitter page. And how do you get there, Steve?
Things We Said Fab, and the Facebook page is Things We Said Today Beatles Radio. And let me quickly mention that 8 days a week deluxe Blu-ray contest goes till the 25th, till Christmas Day. And if you want to get one of 2 copies, send your name and address to Things We Said Today Radio Show at gmail.com. U.S. only, entries only, please.
Okay. So if people want to get in touch with you directly, Steve, how can they do that?
BeatlesExaminer@gmail.com. I also have my own personal page on Facebook, and I have a Beatles news group called Beatles News and Commentary that you're welcome to join.
How about you, Al?
Okay, you can. For now, I'm hanging in on Facebook. You can get me there at Al Sussman, or on Twitter at ASUSS49, or through Beatlefan magazine, www.beatlefan.com. I want to put in a little plug for something that Alan Haber and I recorded at the end of this past week, since Alan Haber's Pure Pop Radio is one of the affiliates that carries Things We Said Today. We recorded a Beatles-themed Christmas show. Will, I believe, run about an hour. The debut of it actually will be before this show actually is ready for before it drops, as they say in the trade. But I'm sure Alan will be running it at various points during the next week. So you should have a chance to catch it. It was a lot of fun. And it was and it was interesting since Allan mentioned the Beatles Christmas album. We were actually unable to use any of the Christmas messages because they're not currently, even though everybody plays them. Allan says that apparently they're not in copyright. Not in at least broadcast copyright.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that poses a problem for me, because if I was to produce a Christmas special for Every Little Thing, there are some stations that actually would refuse to play it for that reason.
Yeah. Which is weird, since, like I said, everybody in the world, every Beatles show on Earth plays the Christmas messages.
Yeah. Okay, Allan, how about you?
People can get in touch with me through Facebook at either Allan Kozinn or Allan Kozinn Remixed, and I'm on Twitter at Kozinn.
Okay. And Kit, how about contact information for you?
You can reach me on Facebook. I'm on there under Kit O Toole. I'm also on Twitter under Kit O Toole. I have a website at kitotoole.com, and I should say that every couple weeks or so I do a Facebook Live session on my Facebook page, and I always post when I'm going to do it, and it's fun. I just talk about what stuff I'm working on, what's coming up. A lot of times we've had discussions, so keep an eye on my page for upcoming Facebook Live events.
Okay. And as for me, Ken Michaels, you can always email me at everylittlething@att.net. I just want to say that on my website, kenmichaelsradio.com, there's a lot of things going on. As Steve mentioned, Lawrence Juber has a new Christmas album out called Holidays and Holly Nights. I just did an interview with Lawrence, which is on my website. And I'm also in a special contest giving away that CD signed by him with a set of guitar strings to boot. And so you can win that. That's my current special contest on my website. But the last special contest of the year, which will start, I believe, December 28th or 29th, is one of the biggest ones I've done on my website. And I'm giving away 5 prizes all at once. And they're pretty much, for the most part, the biggest releases of the past year. And actually, I'm cheating because I'm including the Beatles 1+ in there. So it's the end of last year, but it carried over into this year. So it's the Beatles 1+ CD and DVD, 8 days a week, Blu-ray Deluxe, the Beatles Live at the Hollywood Bowl, Pure McCartney, double CD, and Kit has just told me she's kind enough to include her book, Songs You Were Singing, Guided Tours to the Beatles' Lesser-Known Tracks, winning all 5 in one shot. And it will start sometime, like I said, December 28th or 29th on my website, which is kenmichaelsradio.com. So this being, it looks like the last show for us for 2016, I just want to take this time to wish everybody happy holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate, and certainly a wonderful Christmas time. I'm going to pass you over to each of the members of the group. How about you, Steve?
I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate, and we'll see you next year.
Al?
Merry Christmas, a happy Hanukkah, since that begins on Monday, right?
It's the first night of it is Christmas Eve, actually.
It's Christmas Eve, okay.
Yes.
Alrighty, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, or whatever, happy Festivus, whatever you observe. Happy holidays, and yes, we let's hope that 2017 is a much better year for all of us, all things considered.
Here.
Yep.
Yeah. Allan?
And basically what Al said, all of it, especially the 2017 part. So happy holidays to everyone, and all the best for the new year.
And Kit?
Well, I want to wish everybody happy holidays and all the best and all happiness and health for 2017.
And just to make sure that we don't forget, a big shout out to Fab4 Radio for carrying our show. for several years now, actually since we started 4 years ago, 4 plus, I think, and Pure Pop Radio as well. Thanks to both of those stations for carrying things we said today. Thanks to all of you listeners for your support of this show. It means so much to us for you to be there listening every single week. And we wish you all the best for 2017. And we will see you same time next year.
Ooh,
I just thought of that.
Very good.
Right. That was Ken's tradition back in in Jersey.
It just came back.
He would play same time next year.
Keep the comments in at the end too. Keep the comments in.
What do you mean? Oh, this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, all right. I don't know.